Konnan. Can we get a Konnan in the chat? Konnan. He talked about an issue with Britt Baker and Cody Rhodes' wife. Ooh, one of the one of the reasons that Cody left, amongst many, was there was problems between Brandi and Britt. Tony always takes Britt's side. You'll find out one day. Oh, Marie, what are your thoughts on that? You and I dove deep into the Britt Baker stuff previously on PWT podcast, but yeah, let the good live listeners here know your thoughts on the Britt situation. And apparently, one of the major reasons they left was because of Brandi and Britt.
One day I would like Britt to really just do a tell-all podcast like on her own with like no other co-host, so that way it could just be straight up truth and nothing else. Because for someone that says that the internet as a whole ends up taking a story and running with it and creating all these big rumors and stuff like that, they really don't know anything, right? Well, once and for all, I think that she has to like really come clean to be like, I did this, I didn't do this. This is my side. This is how it went down. This is not how it went down. So that way she doesn't get the reputation of being the mean girl that we always see and we always grow up with in any environment that we're in. In like high school, you got the girl that is always the mean girl and stuff like that. Like I wish that she can, clear any baggage to her name, because it's wrong. Nobody should have that type of baggage if it's not true. You know what I mean? But the other thing too is that like I want to know all the juicy information as well, but I also want to know the truth. Um, you know, she does have the look of like, being a mean girl, but it could just be a character, and then people just go with it. And then if they stop leaking stuff out to Uncle Dave for him to start, I think it'll be a lot better of an environment. Um, I just think that, you know, it's 50-50 with Brit. She could be that mean girl, or
I
she
think
could just
she
be
is, man.
playing it up. You know what I mean?
Her name keeps popping up everywhere. Like
Yeah.
she's gotta be where there's smoke, there's fire. As far as like maybe she's misunderstood. I'm not just saying write her off and she's a menace and like don't bring her into the fight. Like I say, get her in WWE. She'd get better at working and stuff. You know what I mean? I'm always down with
Yeah.
people going through the WWE system a little bit, but my whole thing is just her name keeps popping up with people. Konnan would know he's there. Konnan, why would he just make up this hot news? Like he
Yeah.
would,
Yeah.
yeah, he would actually say the truth, in my opinion, when it comes, like he benefits nothing from just saying this. Oh, hits on his podcast. He has others to talk about. You know
Yeah.
what I
He
mean? He has all this other stuff he's been right about too. Like it's not like all this stuff he talks about, he's wrong when he leaks this backstage. He was right about Santana Ortiz having a fight, all that stuff. He's always talked about the turmoil and has kept it real, keeping it 100, as they say. So I just don't think he'd say this for no reason. I don't know. It makes sense. Britt's rubbing people the wrong way. In that reality show, I don't think you see Britt and Brandi cross paths whatsoever. And yeah, I don't know. It totally makes sense when you think about it. Like someone's wife being like disrespected too. That's what MJF was punching walls about. Alicia Tout being dissed, or him being dissed to Alicia Tout, whatever he's punching walls over it. So Cody didn't punch a wall. He just said, yeah, I'm out. And this is one of
Yeah.
the many reasons. And Konnan saying you'll find out one day. Hopefully there's a time limit on that NDA. I'm a poet and didn't know it. Yeah. Let me get myself But while we're talking about the Lucha Brothers, they have trademarked the names King Fuego and Rey Fuego
Oh God.
for entertainment services. So they're probably going to be called the Fuego Brothers, or maybe the Lucha Bros, but they're just called King and Rey. I'm assuming, right? Because the thing is, like Pentagon, like someone owns that. So the only version of it he could do was Penta El Zero Miedo. Right.
Yeah.
That's why they had to change his name to that. So he can't, I don't think he can just be Penta. I don't think he can be Pentagon. I don't think he can be Pentagon Jr. So like what does he become? Penta Fuego, or just King Fuego, Rey Fuego, Rey and King? They're going to sell a babillion masks. They got to market this. They do, bro. WWE knows what they're doing. Obviously, they signed off on these names too. Obviously, the marks are going to know. I'm surprised. What I thought, I was just like, they should just call them like Penta and Phoenix, the Lucha Bros or the Lucha Brothers. But I think they can't use Penta is the problem, like just by itself. Someone else owns it. But because to me, when you have Rey Mysterio and then Rey Phoenix or Rey Fuego, I'm like, damn, having both Rays in the mask. That's a little. I didn't think WWE would go for that, so I was like, they'll just call him Phoenix, like the same way Andrade is just Andrade. He's not Andrade Cien Almas. He's not Andrade Almas. He's not Andrade El Idolo. He's just Andrade now. I'm like, if they just call him Phoenix and Penta or Pentagon, that would probably work, but. I don't know. They're going to be called King Fuego and Rey Fuego. And I'm not going to sit here and like boo on it. Maybe it has time to win me over. But for now, I'm like, I'm like, dude, King Fuego.
You what?
I just think that because, you know, obviously both of them are Mexican, they went the spiritual route in a way. It's kind of funny if you want to translate it. So you'll have King Fire, and then for Rey Fuego, it's King Fire. So it's the same thing.
Oh, maybe that's what they're doing. So Rey is king?
In Spanish, like, you know, if you so like whenever Rey Mysterio talks about the name Rey, Rey translates to king.
Oh my God. See, that's why Marie's here. Bro, number one pod, like no one's pointing that out. They're all just boo-booing on it. I was boo-booing on it. Marie comes in, Shaq dunks on everyone. It's King Fuego and King Fuego.
Yeah.
But, dude,
it's King
that's
Fire,
genius.
King Fire.
Bro, that's actually kind of genius how they were able to play off of it that way. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. I actually do like that. Now it's over with me. See, that's all it took, because they were able to go like, because Rey's name is Rey, and then Penta's got to change his no matter what, because it's like just the whole, he can't be Penta El Zero Miedo in WWE. You got to drop that and you got to come up with something. So this was clever on their end, and you just pointed it out. That's like some spiritual heritage or like family names. I love that. Boom, you just nailed it. That's
by
perfect.
the way, to further that, it has to be REY to like mean king. If it's like RAY, like a regular Ray, that like you know, short for like Raymond, it doesn't have a translation. But in Spanish culture, if you have REY, it's translation to king.
REY Mysterio.
Yeah,
here
see?
we go.
So basically, you every time that we say Rey Mysterio, if you want to like do the translation just because you want to be fancy, it's King Mysterio or King Mysterious in a way, you know?
Dropping bombs. You know, Tony Khan's booking like these CMLL guys over pushing his big luchador signings, right? Like Rey and Penta, they had a feud between them. They had them reigning as tag champs, them in a trios champ scenario. They had all of that lined up in the palm of their hands. They fumble it. Rey Fenix can do everything Commander can do times 10, in my opinion. Rey Fenix, one of the best luchas in the world. And Penta, I know he does that silly like Cero, Miedo stuff, and some people boo-boo on it, but dude, he knows how to get over, and he does character work. Like he knows, he's just been over in every company he's been in. And then except for AEW, pretty much. Watch what these guys do in WWE, selling masks, the merch. Watch what they do when WWE starts expanding with them and Vacquer into when they have NXT Mexico lined up or whatever they have going on. Just wait and see, like what they do with these guys and what AEW failed to do with these guys. But yeah, if TNA becomes number 2, good. And with guys like Joe Hendry, I mean, and Nick Nemeth over there, it's happening. Somebody in the chat says it's Mystery King is what that's what she said, bro.
But basically it's just a grammar thing to just replace it that way. But yeah, I'm half Spanish, guys.
So Bobby Lashley, though, he's officially a free agent as of today. I pray to God that the Hurt Business reunite in TNA. I think that would be perfect. And Cedric, hey, I'm not saying leave WWE, but if you can get a big bag and get your release from WWE maybe, and they let you go to wherever with the rest of those guys too, do that. You know, like honestly, if that's what you do for your livelihood and maybe you get over, maybe you guys can do the Hurt Business, but Hurt Business worldwide and take it to Japan and take it to all these places and just make that money as I don't know, but I'm not like, I love the Hurt Business as a faction, but they got everybody except for Cedric, and I think it'd be to leave him out of it. I don't know how long he signed to WWE, but I think it would be cheesy in AEW. I just like, don't go do it there, man. It will just not. Tony won't know what to do with it whatsoever. I wish everything the best for MVP, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin. Clearly, they're going to reunite, though. Like, there's no way they don't. There's just going to be money in it. Maybe they're the ones who show up in TNA and wipe out, what are they called? The System. Like Moose's faction. Maybe that happened. I don't know. Who knows? But he talks about his connection with Vince. He goes, I had a connection with Vince. Vince understood me. Vince was big on like the show. He looked at people that were stars and he saw that in me. Vince just looked at me. He was like, I can tell Bobby works his ass off. I can send him anywhere around the country to represent the company and the brand. Super true, dude. He just looked at me like a star. I haven't really had too much of a connection with Hunter. And here's the problem. Fucking Triple H wrestled like in the era of Lashley. Like he was a wrestler then. So I feel like some of these guys, and I said this about MVP, and people can have their own theories. People can have their own opinions. My opinion is this is just people. Now, Cena's Cena, so you can't really do that with him. But just people in general, like who's really around that Triple H was really wrestling and putting over and was like a Vince looked at, like you said, a big star. Like that was always Triple H and Shawn Michaels. And so like, who did Triple H really wrestle other than dudes that were bona fide? Because I love Lashley, but he's never been at like a Brock Lesnar level or a Cena level or the Rock level, you know, to where, yes, is that competition for Triple H, but Triple H can't with these guys because Triple H used to be a menace backstage. And I'm going to play a clip. Stevie Richards buried Triple H and actually talked more about this, right? So this is what I think people remember Triple H for, especially guys who worked with him back in like 06 and 07 and like 01 and in the 90s. And they probably remember Triple H this way and Shawn Michaels this way. And it's hard for them to come around. But I'm not putting it all on that. Like maybe Triple H just doesn't see it in Lashley, but it is such a fumble. This is a fumble by WWE. They completely fumbled Lashley, in my opinion. When people go, oh, they fumbled the Bloodline versus the Hurt Business, that would have been cool to see, but to me, the Bloodline's so good. Like, I'm so glad it happened the way it happened, you know? But I will say this. They fumbled Lashley as far as not fumbled in the grand scheme of his career. They gave him his career, but for what WWE is right now and how over Lashley is, we've pointed it out before, folks. He comes out in many of my reviews, like he does that fist pump thing. He's so over. They stick him with the Street Profits. People are like, what the okay, hopefully this works. Lashley, he's supposed to be a heel, but everyone loves him in the Street Profits so much that they're still cheering him. So they just make him a baby face again really quick. They didn't. I don't know. Triple H was flipping and flopping around with this dude, putting the Hurt Business back together and maybe adding the Street Profits. That would have been a phenomenal move, you know. Some people on that, but it's like, nah, like you just expand the faction and MVP expands the Hurt Business. And I'm down with all that. And I just think to have WWE as hot as it is right now, Lashley only helps things. Like think about over on SmackDown, who does LA Knight have as like a big bad guy? Like the title match is Santos Escobar, which I predicted. I was like, he could wrestle Santos, and I was like, oh, it's not that good though. So there's Santos and Andrade, and I love those guys, but Santos is fighting LA Knight next, and it's just sort of like we need like a challenge for LA Knight. We already seen him beat Santos and stuff. He could be right there. The Hurt Business could be running like the mid card, threatening sort of for the title. Cedric and Shelton would be a great addition to the tag division right now. We're talking about the tag wrestling and expanding that. And tag wrestling's dope, man. I like it. So I say more tag wrestling and I don't know. Hurt Business would do good. But Lashley, I feel like to not have him be like a looming threat for LA Knight right now or something, that's crazy to me. That's a fumble. So I'll call it that. And it might trigger some people, but it is what it is. And anyways, though, I think Triple H, some of these guys he worked with, MVP, Lashley, I'm sure some other people like Edge. Like, how good do you think he'd be booking Edge if Edge was still there? Does he look at Edge like he looks at an Orton or a Cena? Probably not, man. and DX had battles with Rated RKO and stuff like that, I believe. So all I'm saying is we have a story here from Stevie Richards, and we need to listen to this because this will add some context, because I'm not saying this is everybody. I'm not applying this to Lashley, but this is how I'm sure a lot of people feel who don't speak up because he is the boss now. And Richards explains it.
That was one of the crappiest things that I ever witnessed. And
this is what Triple H would do. Even this is in when Chris Masters came back, right? So this is like what, 07? 08 or whatever. This is literally, if you go back to my MVP talk, I was like, weren't they on the roster around like 08? Maybe there's some heat from that too. I think they were on SmackDown together or something, and I totally believe it, because Triple H and HBK were running then too, and they were super kicking guys and sending them in packages to OVW. They did crazy. And here's a crazy story about Triple H, and I'm sure a bunch of people have memories like this, and this is probably why Triple H and Lashley don't get along. I'm sure there was some of this backstage at the time, and same with MVP,
Spoke out, and I think you're a piece of crap for saying stuff like that. One of my initial shoot interviews that I've ever done was me really blasting Triple H about that condescending, petty sense of humor that he has, especially dressing down a talent and literally saying, you did steroids and now you're off the gas. People could say that's not what he meant. Chris says, I didn't take too much offense to it. But this is a dude that had a legitimate problem and came back, and to do that, and you do it to a guy. I would love to see Triple H do that to Brock Lesnar or Batista, say something like that to them live on TV or in a pre-recorded segment. Yeah. That's what I'm saying before. Like, everybody talks about Triple H and this big love fest about he's the father figure, and even Shawn to a degree. Those are the guys I know, and those are the guys that personality does creep up from time to time. That has not completely left that guy. Why would you do?
So there you go. I mean, it creeps up. It hasn't entirely left Triple H. I'm willing to believe that, but also I do think Triple H has changed a lot. But not everything's going to always be perfect. Like, it's not always going to be peaches and cream in WWE. There's going to be times where we go, oh, they're fumbling this or they're that up or whatever, and you got to call it out. And so I will call it out. I think Lashley, to let him go. But also imagine Lashley and them leave and go boost TNA when TNA is starting to catch fire again. That's what I'm being optimistic. Like, dude, we can make something happen. I'm being like, don't go to AEW. Those
do that. What's the point of that? And by the way, DX were baby faces in that promo. What good does that do? That was one of the crappiest things. I'm going to try not to curse because I felt like doing an F-bomb. That was one of the crappiest things that I ever witnessed, and I spoke out. And I think you're a piece of crap for saying stuff like that. And to this day, I'm not gonna waver from my viewpoint, my accurate, educated viewpoint, that's the dude that other talent had to deal with, especially when you're supposedly one of the boys, but you're really in power because you're married to the boss's daughter.
Oh, he goes hard on him.
So if he was anybody in the locker room and said that on TV, Chris would be in his face. Somebody else would have knocked him out or broke his big nose, and that would have been the end of it.
At the time, did you feel like it was, as far as either steroids go or the testing go, was it one rule for the undercard and one rule for the main eventers?
1,000,000%. Your value as a human being is determined by your push and how you draw money at the time. And for being a fake subjective business, they can put anybody in.
That's society, bro. I'm sorry, but like, that's everything. Look at celebrities, and that's what it's all about. Like, how many likes do you get? And then that determines where you are in the pecking order of things. You know what I mean? So, but if your star quarterback's throwing Hail Marys and winning games, and he's sleeping during the practice, or he's sleeping during tape study or whatever, there's the infamous stories. I get it. There's some leniency there, but as far as the drug testing, yeah. And because Stevie wouldn't do drugs, he got drug tested more, so that WWE can be like, oh yeah, our efficiency of like non-drug testing, like tests coming back clean, are high, but obviously like they're not testing Triple H and Batista, and he dives more into it. But we all knew this back in the day. Obviously, this is a totally new landscape, and like, well, I don't know. People aren't getting come on. There's people doing, but I don't know. Stevie, well, he'll break it down right here. He'll tell you.
No spots. NXT is kind of an example that they can just plug in anybody. It's just a company. But
I disagree with that. They tried to plug in Ethan Page, and I don't think it's as hot as Trick. I think giving the title to Page was good, but I think Trick's got to win that thing back. Toot sweet.
Then obvious people had more political leeway to do more things of what they want. And Randy Orton has spoken about how he's trashing hotel rooms, and Cody talked about ripping urinals out. If that was anybody who wasn't figured in to be a part of the long-term plans, and Randy has earned his spot over and over again and drawn money and definitely matured since then. So I'm all for people getting second and third chances, but just make it a little bit more objective across the board. You know, don't that creates kind of a toxic atmosphere in the locker room. But here's the thing. It's always going to be that way. It's never going to change. Kind of like the jobber term in last week's episode. That's never going to change. That's a part of the, okay, what do I now tell you this right here? I said straight to Johnny Ace one time during the end of my time that I didn't know was towards the end. They were drug testing me. And I turned to Johnny and I said, if you guys are planning to get rid of me, if you're planning to release me, just release me. Do not use.
Yeah, chat. We're all jobbers. Jobbers in the chat.
The crutch that I failed the drug test because I don't have anything like as far as to be anywhere near, how should I say, I can't take pride that, you know, with my spot on the card, I can't really be proud of the fact that I'm not living up to my potential that I feel like I'm able to accomplish. But if you guys even dare say I failed an effing drug test, I will sue this company, because that's the one last thing, ethics, values, what I have to hang on and look at myself as a man in the mirror. If you try to falsely take that away from me, I'll sue this effing company, and I don't care if I lose every dime.
Damn, Stevie went off, man. Chat, what do you guys think about that? I don't know. I think things change. Just like he said, too. This was back then, too. You know, he's like, this is how it was then. So he's obviously not saying like now, but obviously he is saying that remnants of that, I'm sure, still exist. And I'm not saying Bobby Lashley feels this way, folks. I'm just saying MVP's definitely vocal about him being against Triple H. So people might feel a type of way. And I think it stems from back when they were burying people trying to keep them their spot, and back in the old guard, in the old day. Last tidbit, and then we're going to play some flutes. Flutes in the chat. WWE is planning to host a PLE in Italy next year, and then we got a Giovanni Vinci on SmackDown promo. So timely, convenient.